They've always won their necrotic wakes.
I remember
they got voodoo on the other team.
I stood up from my desk to go grab dinner, and they had 12 deaths, and the other team was already on the last boss, and I'm like, wow, okay, they might lose this. And then I come back to them 2-0-ing. Huh. Well, how about that? I mean, that's not going to work against a Mega Pump, I can tell you that. That team has been, like Tettle said, for the most part, pretty consistent, but just kind of having random spot deaths here and there and losing out because of it. So Reload's going to have to bring their A game to have a chance of taking that series. But this series should be completely awesome between Echo and Incarnation. This is like the biggest test of a new team whatsoever. Incarnation has looked fantastic, but are they going to be able to match up to Echo here?
Yeah, that's going to be the big question as we start off our series here in Halls of Atonement with Tyrannical, Inspiring, Quaking. Let's get into it. Echo and Incarnation here in our upper finals in game number 1.
All right, so we're already seen Echo play this dungeon yesterday with the fastest run of Group C. They had a 12-minute 24 clear with 0 deaths. Incarnation, though, we haven't seen them yet in Halls, and it looks like they are running the same comp as Echo as well. We'll see how the strategies or the routes differ, but at the start, both of them are walking to that right side and gathering up the Tormentor with the shards and basically all the trash that is there.
Yeah, and notably it is inspiring, and it looks like Incarnation does have inspired mobs sitting on top of the Incinerator, which we saw this yesterday. Both teams are just letting the Incinerator cast go off. They're popping all their defensives. You see Alter Time running. You see a lot like Aura Mastery being popped. Everybody is popping as many defensives as they possibly can to be able to live that cast from the Incinerator, because since it is inspired, it is not kickable. This is a lot of tank damage too, because those Obliterators, whenever those are inspired, they'll cast like Wicked Bolt on your tank. That is bad news as well, but both Incarnation and Echo make very quick work of their first pull.
Yeah, it looks like Echo dealt with that a little bit faster as they're already moving on to that next pull that is also going to be a big one. They're going to be pulling a bunch of more shards to make sure that that first boss spawns. Incarnation looking to be doing the same thing as they're also on their way to that left side. You can see Echo already gathering up that shard and those Obliterators with the smaller mobs as well. Quaking, usually not too big of an issue in this dungeon because it's so big and you can really spread out, but it's going to be a big issue on that first boss, because on the first boss you have such a limited area that you can stand in. On top of that you get that beam, and then there's also going to be mobs that they want to pull on top, so that's going to be an issue what we're going to see later on. But for now they still have to fight those shards and the trash to make sure the first boss spawns.
Yeah, and like you were talking about earlier, Echo, off the back of just going a little bit faster on their first pull, is able to get their second shard of Halkias down just that much earlier. And now they're mounting up, making their way towards the third shard. Ooh, this pull right here that they're doing is very scary. Getting in all of the Groundskeepers, all of these Obliterators. Notably, the Inspired Houndmaster is not inside this pack right now, so they are able to get Sigil of Silence and other kicks into these Obliterators to mitigate the damage on now. And at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you see Mirez, the coach for Echo, sitting here watching intently as his boys are running through the dungeon.
Yeah, having a 6th player just keeping an eye on the competition and telling them what if they have to take any sort of like extra risks or if they can go a bit slower, it's going to be really valuable for Echo, as they're for now ahead though, dealing with that trash bag a bit faster because they got there quicker. Just basically it looks like Echo, because they dealt with that first trash pull a bit faster, they're just a small step ahead in comparison to Incarnation, but they're not far behind as they're finishing off these last few mobs that they have there. They still have one Houndmaster though that they CC'd on the side, and it's taking them quite a while to finish it off.
So Echo did a good job of, once their Obliterators were low enough, they got that Houndmaster grouped up with the rest of the pack so that they could just like even cleave it down, where Incarnation having to put a lot more solo damage into that. And now that allows Echo to grab this advantage here. Ooh, they've done the technique where they grab triple Stoneborn into Halkias. This is absolutely great. So you're able to get like multiple Stoneborns off to the left side. And so they have grabbed 3 of those, and that's going to increase their boss damage by a substantial amount. And with it being a 21 Tyrannical, this is a super cool move coming in from Echo.
Yeah, and it looks like Incarnation is doing the same thing, but it took them quite a bit longer to set this whole thing up. Echo was really quick at setting it up, having multiple different players grab the different kinds of gargoyles, and then immediately pulling the boss, while Incarnation did the same thing, but it just took them a bit longer. So they're now 30% behind on the boss's HP because it took them a bit longer to gather it all up, and now we're gonna see them both pull extra trash into the boss slowly, right? Because the boss has a lot of HP, it is tyrannical, so they do have a lot of time to just get extra trash cleaved down with the boss, but they don't want to pull everything at once because it would be too risky, so they pull some at the start, finish that off, and then they just pull more and more on top.
Yeah, and both Xaylia and Yummy Pala have their Ashen Hollow available. I wonder when they're going to fire that off. Maybe that's they're looking like they're both going to hold it potentially for Echelon, which is an interesting save. I think it just comes down to like timings of where you're going to place it in the dungeon and that sort of thing. But firing it off here, if they did, they would also be able to press it on the third boss. But there's definitely a reason that both of these healers are going to be saving their Ashen Hollow.
Yeah, I think we're just barely 5 minutes into the dungeon, so I would say that it just came up when the boss was already like half HP and the trash was already dead. So I guess they figured it's not going to be such a big value that they'd rather hold it for the next boss, or maybe even for after the boss for a trash pull. We're going to have to see about that, as Echo is now pulling Echelon already. You can see Xaylia does drink a little bit there because Paladins actually have mana issues now in 9.1. Previously, that wasn't really an issue they had to worry about, but looks like Xaylia did pop the wings, but is holding on to the Ashen. So it seems to me that they're going to be saving it for that next pull, where they're going to pull a bunch of trash on top of the next boss, which is very interesting because we know that their total time in this dungeon is 12 minutes, I believe 30 or 40. So theoretically, you would be able to get one extra Ashen off if you use it on cooldown, but I guess they just didn't think it's worth it if you're not going to get a huge value out of it. So they would rather get one less, or possibly get one at the very end of the last boss.
Yeah, and now Incarnation has killed Halkias. They're somewhere in the range of 30 seconds behind where Echo is, and that's off of just like a couple of minor differences, whether that be the Houndmaster having to solo that a little bit and just having slightly worse damage on their first couple of pulls. But Incarnation is now starting to catch back up. Only 20% on the boss separates the two teams, and that feels like that's not bad for Incarnation. This feels like they're actually starting to claw back a decent amount of their time as Echo's damage starts to slow down a little bit on this boss.
Yeah, and I actually checked the legendaries of both of the Frost mages, because yesterday we saw that some mages were actually running the Shifting Power legendary, the Night Fae legendary, in some dungeons like in Sanguine Depths. But both Gingy and Cryptix, they are still running that Frozen Orb legendary, and they seem to be disagreeing with the legendary choice, because at this point... But I guess they just disagree that that's better. So they're sticking to their choice and playing that Frozen Orb legendary.
And right as I talk about Echo's damage slowing down, they really turn on the gas here. They're killing off Echelon somewhere in the range of like 25% ahead of Incarnation. And now the most crucial part of this dungeon is going to occur. So you have that Mind Soothe on Varuth, and now the whole entire group is going to be running through and getting into the third boss area. And so with this, there are a lot of casters. There are these obliterators, and there are the collectors. On top of that, you have the boss, which does like a Shadow Bolt volley kind of cast, and then just like a bolt cast on the tank. And all of these things are going to be going through since it is inspiring. This is a very dangerous pull. Now's HP is the one that's in jeopardy. And right as I say that, he goes down. This is so bad for Echo. They have to get an engineering res on him.
Okay, somehow everyone is still alive. I got clicks going down now too. They have used all of their defensive. Xaylia used his bubble to make sure he can stay alive. Clicks cannot be rest. They don't have a battle rest for him. Now I did manage to get back up, but because he didn't have that cheap death available, you can see Dorky still has the cheap death. So if something goes bad for them, then their tank is not going to go down. But now, because he still had cooldown on this one, just goes down. They do get the rest off of him, but they're going to lose so much time at this point because that trash is just not dying because their damage dealer is dead. You see Fragments is taking a lot of damage. Xaylia is dropping really low. There's just so much trash still alive, and they can't deal with it because there's an inspired mob in there still. You can see that Gargan just applying that inspired aura to everyone. None of this trash can be CC'd. Now they finally managed to get it. Now it's dying. This is a full team wipe. They cannot recover from this one. Incarnation, though, is doing that same pull. Yummy went down. They did get a Battle Res off on him, and they might be able to recover, but Echo just having that full team wipe, that is a disaster for Echo. And if Incarnation can pull this off properly, then they're in the lead by quite a lot, because Echo has to get back there and try to do this whole pull again without offensive cooldowns.
I don't know, but did he lose his Ashen Hollow? I know that he was trying to cast the Stoneborn ability.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, so we got word that he did lose his Ashen Hollow, but ultimately it's going to be the difference here, not of the damage, but it's going to be a lot of the difference of the tank survivability. Dorky, as you identified, had his cheat death available, and since that Holy Paladin did end up dying, Dorky's cheat death procced, but it wasn't too bad because he was able to survive. Now, if he can just live for a little bit longer, this should be fine for Incarnation. This pull has been going very poorly for them, but Echo's pull just went that much worse. And so now Echo is trying to get back into position to where they are able to salvage just what they can, and Incarnation just needs to make sure this Collector dies, make sure Elise is getting interrupted as often as they possibly can, and Incarnation should be in an okay spot here.
Yeah, Echo trying to get back to that spot. Gingy not having an invisibility ready, need to get rest up here, but again, they're out of these offensive and defensive cooldowns, and all of the trash, or a lot of the trash, reset. You can see the Gargant still alive, Houndmasters. They barely got any of the trash down because they wiped so early. So at this point, I'm not sure if they can even execute this pull without the Ashen being available. But Incarnation, they're doing a really good job. They do have the boss still alive and one of those collectors that are inspired, so the boss still cannot be interrupted, so they're gonna have a lot of those volleys go through that they're gonna have to out-heal. But it's looking a lot more stable for Incarnation now that they got Yuumi back up. I think they definitely have recovered. They're pulling in that last guardrail that they still have available. They're gonna be mind controlling that one just a second to be able to get that extra damage for the mini-boss that they're gonna have to one-face in just a second.
Yeah, under normal circumstances, they would have lost a ton of time to this pull going the way it did. But Incarnation is doing a great job. Ooh, Clicks goes down for the side of Echo again. They do get him battle res back up. This just shows how difficult this pull truly is that both of these teams that are world-class teams, some of the absolute best in the world, are still having problems on it. It is inspiring. This is a very dangerous pull that is not normally advised to do on Inspiring. Now Incarnation, with their loyal Stoneborn, has to burn Inquisitor's Cigar, and then the only thing that they have after that is Lord Chamberlain in their sights. Echo, they're dropping increasingly low here, as Zalia and Clicks both dropped to 20% HP, but now they're getting topped back up. But Incarnation, this is feeling like they are definitely in the driver's seat.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see if they have enough damage to finish off Cigar here before he casts the next Dark Communion. It is looking good, but he's gonna start casting the spell in just a second. There we go, they have enough damage, they have the Bloodlust available. Ashen is still down for 50 seconds, so they might be waiting for that Ashen to come back up before they press Bloodlust. There's also some other offensive cooldowns that are still on CD, for example Yoda CDs and also Cryptic CDs, so they might just be waiting for that one, but it's looking really good for them. Keep in mind they do have the 3 Tormentor debuffs here. They have the 50% slow, 50% healing reduction, and the 50% increased physical damage. So this is still very difficult, and Dorky does not have the cheat death available here. They do have one battle res in case something goes wrong, but it's going to be very difficult to recover from a mistake here, especially if Dorky goes down.
Oh my goodness, Growl dodging out of the way. They do have one battle res, so it can be fine. But yeah, I think that Dorky, as you identified, is going to be the pain point here. If he ends up dying, he is their linchpin, and if he ends up dying, this can be very problematic for Incarnation. They do have Bloodlust available for them. All of their CDs are going to be coming up in a few. Yoda dies on that Rogue. That's very bad for them. You do see Yummy grabbing a battle res. Now Dorky is a little bit more in danger, but they're going to be pushing Lord Chamberlain into his intermission in a few seconds, but I think Dorky's going to get another one of those bleeds on him, which, honestly, those bleeds are very dangerous for your tank on this fight, and the Bloodlust has been coming out. All of the CDs are going to be popped. The Ashen Hollow has been dropped, and now Lord Chamberlain's being pushed in the intermission. This is a great time that Dorky can get topped up. And he does still have that bleed on him, but he's no longer tanking melees for the boss, and now just has to... They have to group soak this Ritual of Woe. They have many immunities on the side of Incarnation. So it looks like they're just using Bubble here with Dorky Soak. They do still have a Cloak and an Ice Block available if they have something like that happening. Echo is kind of caught up, but they're still something in the range of 50% HP behind, plus 30 seconds in death differential.
Yuumi's completely, look at his mana, he's actually completely out of mana. And you see Dorky is taking so much damage. There's going to be another Ritual of Woe coming up at this point. They do have immunities available to soak this, but Dorky is just going lower and lower because of that debuff that does so much damage to him. You can see Yuumi just got a little bit of mana back, but he's got a hard time keeping up Dorky at this point. One more ritual though, it is finished casting now, so there's not going to be any more damage on the group, but still a lot of damage on Dorky, and they're running out of their offensive cooldowns now, so the last 20% of the boss is actually still going to take a long time. Fragment's going down, they don't have a battle res available, so that's going to be a hard kill for Echo to even finish off. But at this point, all eyes on Incarnation, because if they don't have any mistakes, if Dorky stays alive, but look at Yumi's mana, he's completely Dorky's just dropping lower and lower, he doesn't have cheap death available. Yumi is trying to help out, the stack is almost killing Yuumi at this point. Yuumi goes down, they don't have a battle res, Dorky is still alive, but 8% on the boss and it's tyrannical, that's still kind of up. Maybe they can kite it out, but it's really difficult. You can see Dorky got a huge shield now. Junkrat is trying to support the healing here on Dorky. 3% left, 2%. I think this is Incarnation actually making it. Winning against Echo in the first game. Wow.
Oh, those dots are no joke there. Great job by Incarnation just to stay alive at all costs there. Very, very well played as Incarnation, like you said, takes game number 1. I mean, Echo just having a critical mistake there, Zyro, in that third boss.
Yeah, that was really, really rough. Just compounding mistakes, so uncharacteristic of Echo. But also Incarnation making sure they're playing well enough to, capitalize on the mistake there. They were right on their heels the entire dungeon. So once Echo had that mistake, Incarnation was just like, all right, let's get it.
That's right. And, it also just goes to show just how important it is to be able to stay in the fight on a lot of these dungeons. You might be going up against a really, really difficult opponent and everything, but these mistakes can happen. And so far this weekend as well, Nagura, Echo has looked a lot more human, especially on some of the pulls that usually you see very high success rates on.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen them have this full team wipe basically at the end of that Mist that they did 2 days ago, and now they're struggling in this halls as well. We know that they have those like really fast times if they don't make mistakes, and they're usually the team that is very consistent, but you can also see that they make mistakes as well, and it really was the ticket for Incarnation to win this dungeon. But even without Echo making a mistake, look at their time, 14 minutes 46, that is incredibly fast. So Incarnation definitely doing a good job, and they had a bunch of mistakes as well. They would have been even faster if they didn't have those 3 deaths on the board. And the next 2 dungeons coming up, Incarnation actually has the best time of the tournament in both of those. So it's looking really good for Incarnation here.
Yeah, it's very, very true. But before we get into those other games, Zyro, take us through the rest of this map here.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because last night Dorky was saying that him and the squad were feeling terrible about this match because they're all of Echo's best dungeons, but I was very surprised at how quickly they adapted their strategy. They pretty much copied Echo's strategy, pull for pull, including all of the setup with the Sigil of Midri into the Ring of Frost to pull stuff into the boss, and they were close enough behind so that when this happened to Echo, the now death right into the Click's death, they were able to capitalize. They were only about 15 to 20% boss DPS behind the entire dungeon, which is, playing it relatively close, maybe 20 or 30 seconds behind. This death, though, was incredibly costly because right afterwards, Clix ends up going down because now doesn't have aggro on everything quite yet. And with a DPS down, it causes them to just slowly bleed out over the course of the pull. If there are still mobs alive when Zalia's Ashen and Wings are gone, there's no way you're going to be able to get through the rest of that pull. And it was just it was the worst kind of wipe, right? It was one of those slow bleeding wipes where you're like, oh man, I think we can make it through. And then you just end up wasting a minute and a half trying to get through it. And it cost Echo there.
Yeah.
Dude, Growl losing his Ashen on that boss as well for Incarnation.
Yeah.
Dude, that actually may have cost them somewhere in the range of like 30 to 45 seconds. They lost so much time by losing that Ashen, but that full wipe from Echo, like you said, they were in position to be able to capitalize on any mistakes, and that's exactly what you have to do. Even though you make mistakes of your own, you just made slightly worse or slightly less bad mistakes.
Yeah.
There's a catastrophe on the other side.
Yeah, I mean,
mitigation, a minor mistake on your end.
Mitigation is always going to be super important as well for these teams, and how to just avoid having those extra problems. And now we got to start looking at what these teams are going to be doing for our next dungeon, Nagura, which, like you mentioned, is going to be a really good one for Incarnation in Mists.
Yeah, Mists, both of the teams actually have played Mists already, but as I mentioned earlier, Echo had almost a full team wipe at the very end of Mists, ending up having 4 deaths and a total time of 16 minutes and 30, while Incarnation, on the other hand, had a 15:02 time, so 1.5 minutes faster than Echo, with 0 deaths on their side. So I think Mist is definitely really good. They're playing this very interesting comp with the Moonkin, with the Kiri and Moonkin, while Echo is playing that full physical composition. And I like it. I don't like the Kiri and Moonkin, but somehow it's just working out for them.
Yeah, I mean, they've been finding some different ways to be able to go about, being successful with it. And that's just kind of the craziest thing I think about Incarnation as well, Titles, is that they have been the ones who are trying to push the envelope as best as they can with finding different class, covenant, race combinations to be able to be successful here.
I think that they play what they believe is best for them a lot of the time, even if it's not the most conventional pick. And I think that they focus on their execution first and foremost, and then they focus on playing the absolute most meta stuff second. There are going to be some things that are going to save you substantial amounts of time in these dungeons. You're going to always see them running with the Holy Paladin more often than not, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in the Theater of Pain, we saw them play a Prot Paladin with an Arms Warrior. I bet that's a really... I think that may even be their best time, or if not, it's a really competitive time. And with that Moonkin, I feel like that Moonkin fills a similar niche as a Shadow Priest more often than not, where it's just a support kind of DPS, plus they have the ability to pull some mobs through the maze, plus that Kindred Affinity Legendary Link. It's pretty overtuned in terms of the amount of stats that it gives, so you're definitely helping out the homies, you're helping out the Frost Mage and whatnot. And whenever you look at their overall DPS, whenever they do play that Kyrian Moonkin, their overall damage is always inexplicably a lot higher than the teams that they've been playing against so far. So I wonder if Echo, it's going to be a similar situation. Maybe Echo... they're the world first guild right now. They got some elite damage on their side as well.
Yeah.
Zyro very upset with that comment. Zyro very upset.
Poor Zyro. Don't worry, we'll get Titles back later. All right, I got you, man. Let's start. The other thing we want to kind of keep in mind is that, a lot of the wins against Echo have been coming off the back of just their own mistakes. When it comes to, the Mists, for example, there was around 16 minutes that we had out of Echo, but that was including the near wipe or almost wipe, for example, that they had to be dealing with, while the side of Incarnation was about 15 minutes. When we look at the Halls of Atonement times, they've about a 12-minute run. Echo had about a 12-minute run for themselves ordinarily. So you can kind of feel as well, Nagura, the pressure that we're seeing on the side of Incarnation to be performing, and also make sure that the second, whether it's a full wipe or whether it's just one death by Echo, Incarnation needs to be able to capitalize on it to help seal these victories.
Yeah, you can't expect Echo to make mistakes because in the past they've been just incredibly consistent. So that's not something you can bank on. You kind of have to create a route or create a strat that can beat Echo even if they don't make any mistakes, and that's incredibly difficult. So we'll see what Incarnation can do here, but again, Incarnation had a really good route in Mist. It's hard to compare the times because they didn't play against each other, so they had a different maze, and some of the mazes are a bit quicker and some are slower, so it's hard to compare the times, but I do think that Incarnation is really good in this dungeon specifically.
Yeah, let's see what
All
these
right,
guys
and
got
now
for
we
us.
have both Echo... Yeah, looking at the difference in the comps, we have Gingy on that Hunter versus Yoda on that Druid, like we talked about earlier. And in addition to that, Clix is playing Windwalker versus Incarnation's Frost Mage. So it's actually a pretty... And on top of that, now on that Protection Warrior, this is a major difference in composition between these two teams. But they do... It feels like they kind of do very similar things just as a whole, even though the compositions are so very different.
Yeah, for sure. Both of the teams also doing an incredibly large pull here as they get the Incinerator in with those Dobors and also the trash that is there as well. Ashen being popped by both of the Holy Paladins, so they're not gonna have that available for the boss. That's something we have to watch out for as well. But Incarnation with that Kiri and Moonkin actually having a lot of boss damage there as well. But we did see Echo also one-face the boss pretty easily in all of the runs that we've seen them do so far. Looks like both of them are executing this pull pretty nicely. Definitely decently difficult, especially because you have the Grievous affix as well, and you also have the Spiteful Shades that just keep spawning out of the mob, so you gotta make sure that you don't get hit by those, as Yuumi needs to use his bubble and also using Lay on Hands on Dorothy here, making sure everyone can stay alive.
Ooh, and interestingly enough for Incarnation, you see some of their members grabbing those mushrooms during that Furious Thrash to be able to heal themselves up to full. Whenever you eat those, it's just like a lay on hands kind of effect where you just immediately get yourself completely topped up. And now Incarnation just has the double bow breakers at 30% HP, Echo going just a tad bit faster. I think that's off the back of that Windwalker Monk providing just a little bit more AoE damage. You do see Clicks there sitting at a nice balmy 26k DPS. Cryptix is keeping up, especially with that Windwalker Monk, so maybe it's not that much of a disparity between these two teams, but Echo is going to get Droman and Ingram Malok pulled just a little bit earlier.
Yeah, they had a little bit of an issue as well, Incarnation, everyone dropping so low, and obviously whenever the whole group is about to die, you're going to lose a little bit of damage because you trade survivability for damage, maybe use some off heals as well to help healing, and that's going to cost you some time. So Echo, dealing with that pull a bit cleaner, already got the Drillman down to 65% at this point. It looks like they're definitely cleaving Ingra a bit. You can see Ingra is already at 90%, so they're definitely making sure they get some cleave damage onto her to make sure that the boss is lower whenever the Drillman does apply that extra damage effect onto the boss. So Incarnation looks like they're maybe not focusing Ingra that hard. So they caught up on the Drillman damage here, which might mean that they actually can catch up as a whole and might be able to get the boss into the face sooner.
Yeah, and that's actually a pretty big time save by not having to push Ingram Malok to 89%. Sometimes they would be able to miss that fear. You did see it go off for the side of Incarnation because they were a little bit slow, but it comes down to spell queuing as to whether or not you're going to be getting that fear. And now both Incarnation and Echo are in that Ingram Malok burn, and Echo needs to get the boss probably around 10% HP to be able to push it all the way to in one phase it to 0. Same thing goes for Incarnation. We need to see about 10-ish%, and then you're going to be able to reliably commit onto the boss. Incarnation is pretty high on Ingram Malok here, and Echo was able to push through and get Ingram Malok killed off fairly quickly, where Incarnation's damage is starting to slow down since Ingra is not in that vulnerability window anymore.
Yeah, they got Ingra to only 17%, so it's taking them quite a lot longer to finish it off. They will be able to do so without pushing the Drillman again, so they won't be losing too much time, but definitely another time gain in favor of Echo. As they're already dealing with Baruth, the next Tormentor, it looks like they got them to like 70%, and now they're engaging the rest of the trash group, and also the trash group from the right side maze. So lots of trash on top of each other, which can be dangerous because you have that 50% healing reduction aura and Grievous as well. You can see everyone just stacking up those Grievous stacks whenever there's any sort of damage in the group.
Ooh, and Incarnation does not look like they have Executioner of Baruth pulled at all. So that's actually a massive change in strategy. You did see Yoda on that Druid tagging that pack over the wall. So it's actually a pretty big difference in like your strat for how you're going to be doing this. And now Echo has to kite out a lot of these trash mobs because now is not able to stand in the pack for that much longer, where Incarnation is just able to pump AoE. Dorky's going to be able to stand in that pack for a lot longer because his mitigation is going to just have higher uptime since the pack is dying that much faster. And now it looks like, ooh, Incarnation is grabbing the Executioner into this pull now that they are doing. So they were just delaying the pack that they wanted to pull the Executioner into.
Yeah, I really like this strategy that Incarnation is doing because as you saw with Echo, they had to just were fighting the Ruth by himself for like a couple of seconds until they pulled in the rest of the trash group. And Incarnation, with their strategy, they can pull Baruth immediately into this next trash group, and I really like that because they're not wasting any single target DPS time. They just immediately pull it in and get the AoE, and they also have the Ashen committed by Yuumi as well to mitigate or out-heal that healing reduction aura that Baruth applies. So I do really prefer Incarnation's strategy here, but Echo, because they killed the boss a bit quicker, that slower strategy, I want to say that they're doing is still paying off for them because they're just overall ahead, and they're finishing off this pack now in just a second. They're already up to 32% trash because they pulled a bunch of mobs from the sides in as well.
Yeah, and it's just the advantage of that Hunter. For Yoda on Incarnation's side, they have to commit that 1 minute cooldown in the Force of Nature trees, where Echo, you have Genji on that Hunter just using his pet to be able to pull as much as he realistically can. And so now Incarnation has made their way into this remaining trash area, the same one that Echo is currently in, and you see Yoda here is able to grab this trash pack today. He even is stampeding roars his trees to allow his trees. Yeah, it makes them run faster. It's a good
amazing.
move.
I like it. That's 5-head. I saw him cast a roar. It's like, how did he mispress? And then I realized he's actually roaring the trees to make sure that trash comes in faster. That's a really nice tech by Incarnation. Echo dealing with the next trash pack. Again, they're up to 38%. They have this one death on the board, so that's going to be a 5 seconds penalty for them. And Clicks and Gigi going down. That's really bad. I think it looked like they got hit by the frontal of this Gorge Gullet, immediately just getting one-shot by that 22 fortified frontal. And they can release immediately because now it did activate that Night Fae respawn, but another 10 seconds on the board. And they might have lost offensive cooldowns as well, and just uptime in general. So this is the time for Incarnation to actually catch up.
It's also interesting because it is spiteful. It's kind of hard to get through some of these maze walls that fast, but what Echo and Incarnation both have been doing is they've been spamming their shadow melds on the players that it's assigned to, and they've been immediately going and trying to pull straight through that wall, even while some people are still targeted with those spiteful, because they're able to drop combat with that. And now the members of Echo have made it back into the pack, but this is the opening that Incarnation needs to be able to catch up in some of their time.
Yeah, and Yoda also managed to use his Force of Nature, his trees, to get some extra trash in there as well. You can see it coming from the left side here. Lots of interrupts need to be done here because they have a Shaper and a Tender as well. So lots of heals that need to be interrupted. But it looks like somebody did pick up that Volcanic Plume and just keeps knocking up those trash mobs, which is pretty efficient in mists because there's a lot of casts that need to be interrupted.
So they run triple Volcanic Plume on their DPS. So They value the mobs being stacked for longer periods of time due to that Volcanic Plume. Plus, they can get interrupts on things such as that Bucking Rampage, such as those Spear Flurries, and that allows Incarnation just a lot more damage as a whole whenever the pack is able to be stacked up like that. But at the cost of running something that has a little bit higher DPS, like Necrotic Wound Dagger, or like that Champion's Brand buff. So it's just a little bit of a trade-off, but it really makes sense for the Incarnation guys here that they are running triple Plume. It only works for certain dungeons. I would only say like Sanguine Depths and Mist of Tierna Scythe are the only realistic dungeons that you should be running this many plumes in, but it is really good here.
So Echo is actually doing an insane pull. I think this might be like 3 trash groups that they pulled on top of each other, and this is so dangerous because they have a bunch of mobs that jump that need to be interrupted. You can see the debuff being on Gingy, and they also have 2 or even 3 of the mobs that apply a magic debuff to one of the players, and if it goes off, it basically one-shots you. It needs to be dispelled, but because there's multiple of those mobs, they didn't have enough dispels to actually get rid of it, so they had to commit a lot of defensive immunities to survive it. Sally had to bubble, Gingy had to use Turtle as well to get rid of that, so they are down some of those defensives because of that huge pull that they just did. Now they're already onto Mistcaller, but Incarnation reached the boss earlier. They do have less percentage on the board, if you can see, 52% versus 66%, but if Incarnation can actually pull that extra trash on the boss, which we know they do, then they can catch up on the percentage that they're missing without losing any extra time because they're just cleaving it down with the boss.
Is Echo the team that grabs the trash late into Mistcaller? Or was that Omega Pump?
I think that's Incarnation.
Then I think it was either Omega Pump or Echo. But I think that Echo may actually end up grabbing some of their additional trash late into the boss after this first guessing game phase. It's also important to note that they're look at this, and right on time, this trash is coming in for Echo. It's also important to note that we did see Incarnation yesterday. They skipped their 10% HP Mistcaller guessing game intermission phase, and that's actually a really important tech that a lot of these teams have been learning about recently. You have to have like a very specific queued up window. It's something to do with like dodgeball plus pushing the boss a certain percent. I don't know the exact intricacies of it, but the Incarnation guys did show it off yesterday. Then the Omega Pump guys did it a little bit later, so some of these teams definitely know about it. The question now comes, are either of these teams able to pull it off and utilize it to be able to save a lot of time on this boss? And it looks like the
Incarnation didn't make it. Yeah. Oh no, okay, so they got that guessing game. If Echo is able to push that and make the timing and actually skip that guessing game, it's gonna be another pretty big time save for Echo. So we'll see, take a look at their HP. Mistcaller is dropping lower. Right before 10%, they need to stop damage, make sure they get the correct timing, and then push the boss. Incarnation though, they got through that phase pretty quickly, are now already finishing off the boss. We have a pretty big disparity in trash though, 13% in favor of Echo. So let's take a look at Echo, see if they can... Oh no, I think they're also not gonna make it. That guessing game is going through, so no time gain for Echo here, as they're also not making it.
Automatic Jack pinging me saying that you have to push the boss from 11 to 8% during the dodgeball cast. And that is what apparently is what it is. So a little bit of lore from Automatic Jack. But now the Incarnation guys have Mistcaller down a little bit earlier than the Echo guys, but there's a massive trash disparity between these two teams right here.
Yeah, somehow Incarnation needs to make up that trash disparity faster before Echo can get down. They're still waiting for that RP to happen on their side. Incarnation doing a pretty substantial pull. Looks like they pulled 3 trash groups together, and the volcanic plume, you can see it helping them out a lot. But one of the casts went through, I believe. It looked like, at least, so they have to be careful about that one. They definitely have limited interrupts because of that Moonkin. The Moonkin has a 1 minute cooldown on that solar beam, and it does an AoE silence actually in these mobs. So those casts going off is really bad. As you can also see, the Reavers now joined that pull as well. Not sure if that was intended. And Cryptix has a debuff that is not getting dispelled. He's gonna Ice Block? Oh, okay, somehow it did no damage, not sure what happened there. I guess he just used one of his shields. Either way, Incarnation just struggling to finish off this pull. Echo now also on a similar trash pull, but they need a lot less trash percentage.
They had a stimulant heal from that Staghorn, just like full channel. That is actually what slowed them down a lot, is just that one Staghorn cast fully channeled onto the whole entire group. And while a lot of their mobs were low, you can't have that cast just fully healing the whole entire pack. But now Incarnation with that was a pretty slow pull by their standards relative to where they were yesterday whenever they were doing that pull. But now they are able to get it down. They are 80% enemy forces count. Echo is honestly hot on their heels, but there is that 15-second disparity between these two teams, since Echo did have 3 deaths during that maze area.
Yeah, and they're about to finish up their pull as well, so they're going to be ahead in trash again in just a second. They're 8% ahead. Incarnation is now engaging the boss. They have a lot of trash that they gathered on the way. They have that Ashen available immediately with the Bloodlust, so they might be able to finish off this trash really quickly, and they're going to gain a lot of boss damage as well because they're just cleaving it down. You can see all of the cooldowns being popped here. Yoda also committing that Celestial Alignment, so they're going to be done with that boss pretty quickly. Echo, on the other hand, did skip the trash. They used that Shroud to go past the trash, just dealing with the boss itself. And then afterwards, they're going to do another trash pull. And that pull that they did afterwards, that's actually the pull where they wiped to yesterday.
Yeah, and now the Incarnation guys trying to get those Gorge Gullets and whatnot towards that achievement nut in the middle of the room. They're definitely not going to allow them to eat it because it would heal them, but it would be really ridiculous. And the Incarnation guys are somewhere in the range of 30% ahead on this boss right now. The Echo guys really need to turn on the gas here and start to pump it damage as much as they possibly can, because there's also a trash advantage for Incarnation here.
Yeah, because Incarnation, they don't have to do a huge pull after this boss. They only need that 7%, so they can just go in and finish up a bunch of the mobs. But Echo, they need 11%. So they're saving their Bloodlust, it looks like, and even their Ashen Hollow.
Here's the trash.
Oh, they're actually pulling it into the boss. Okay, so Gingy actually pulled that trash into the boss. If they can finish off that 11% in this pull with the Bloodlust as well and the Ashen, then this is just going to be incredibly close as Gingy goes down. They do have a Battle Rust available, but they have to use the Engineering Rest. We'll see if they can get it off in just a second.
He popped his Resonating Arrow too.
Here. Yeah, and the Bloodlust was popped too, so Elia goes down. They do have another rest, but everything seems to be falling apart for Echo, as this is just not working out. Now has a huge shield on him, but we're not sure if they can get everyone back up at this point. Incarnation are already done with the boss, and they're moving on to the last trash pool. I think this might just be Incarnation winning this series. Yes, Incarnation just needs 7%. Let's see if they can pull it off as they pull 2 trash groups together. They need to get that 7%, and they don't have any offensives available at this point. They need to get all of those interrupts. Can't get any shields that go off or heals.
Yeah, the Bears are going to dethrone Echo. All they need is just 7% of their trash count. That may not even be all of these mobs that they have. They may just need to kill off some of these Gorge Gullets. Echo ends up having a full wipe. You see Gingy looks so frustrated as they do full wipe, and they need to start practicing for that lower finals as Incarnation starts to finish off the last couple of mobs, as these mobs are seemingly taking a very long time.
Yeah, so they don't have any offensives available, but it looks like they got all of those interrupts done. Full team wipe for Echo. This is that's something we'd never see, but Incarnation doing such a good job in this dungeon. They have 0 deaths on the board, having such a clean route, and there it is. They got the 100% trash. Incarnation is going to be the one going into the grand final today, making sure that Echo drops into the lower bracket. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking before about, Incard, you got to make sure they capitalize on any sort of mistake or anything that Echo makes, and they just took the lead and ran with it the entire dungeon on that one. No deaths, so clean in their execution and continuing to be able to play their game. And